Humans are, biologically speaking, a species of primate, Homo sapiens, often translated as wise man or thinking man. But that simple label hides a strange fact. We are not the biggest animal, the fastest, the strongest, or the most naturally armed. We have thin skin, relatively little body hair, and newborns that are helpless for years. Yet humans have spread across almost every region of Earth, built cities, invented writing, split atoms, mapped genomes, and sent machines beyond the solar system. What makes this species so unusual is not one single trait, but a combination: upright walking, flexible hands, large social groups, complex language, long childhoods, and brains capable of imagination, planning, and sharing knowledge. Humans are animals, but animals that can ask what kind of animal they are. One of the most visible human traits is bipedalism, walking habitually on two legs. This changed the entire body. The spine, pelvis, legs, and feet all carry evidence of a species adapted for upright movement. Walking on two legs freed the hands for carrying food, tools, infants, and materials. It also allowed early humans to travel long distances efficiently across varied landscapes. But bipedalism came with trade-offs. Human backs and knees are vulnerable to strain, and the shape of the pelvis created complications for childbirth. Our bodies are not perfectly engineered machines, they are evolutionary compromises. The human form is a record of ancient pressures, with advantages and costs written into bone, muscle, and movement. The most famous human feature is the brain, especially the highly developed prefrontal cortex. This region is associated with planning, decision-making, impulse control, social judgment, and higher cognition. Humans can remember specific personal experiences, imagine futures that have not happened, and mentally compare different possibilities. This is sometimes described as mental time travel. A person can recall a childhood event, plan a conversation for tomorrow, or imagine how life might look decades ahead. Humans also show self-awareness and a theory of mind, the ability to infer that other people have thoughts, beliefs, desires, and perspectives of their own. This makes cooperation possible, but also deception, politics, storytelling, empathy, and moral conflict. Human intelligence is not only private thought. It becomes powerful because it is shared. Language allows humans to transmit detailed information across distance and time. A person can explain how to make a tool, warn others about danger, preserve a ritual, teach a child a rule, or describe something no one present has ever seen. Culture turns individual learning into group inheritance. In anthropology, one important idea is the ratchet effect. Knowledge can accumulate across generations instead of being lost each time an individual dies. A stone tool becomes a better tool. A campfire becomes cooking. Counting becomes mathematics. Stories become law, religion, science, and history. Human progress depends less on isolated genius than on the ability to inherit, modify, and pass on what others discovered. Humans are intensely social beings. We live inside overlapping networks, families, friendships, clans, neighborhoods, workplaces, religious communities, nations, and online groups. These structures involve both cooperation and competition. People share food, raise children, defend territory, exchange goods, create alliances, and enforce expectations. Social life produces values, norms, rituals, taboos, and identities. A handshake, a wedding, a courtroom oath, a national flag, or a funeral ceremony may seem symbolic, but symbols organize behavior. They tell people who belongs, what matters, and what actions are acceptable. Human societies are not held together by biology alone. They are also held together by shared meanings, and those meanings can change over time. Human curiosity has created many ways of understanding the world. Science investigates patterns through observation, testing, and revision. Philosophy asks about knowledge, ethics, reality, and meaning. Religion and mythology have helped communities explain origins, suffering, morality, and the unseen. These fields differ, but they all reveal the same underlying impulse. Humans do not merely react to the environment, they try to interpret and influence it. We ask why storms happen, why people die, how societies should be organized, and what kind of life is worth living. This desire to explain has practical consequences. It drives agriculture, medicine, engineering, navigation, education, and political systems. Humans survive not just by adapting to surroundings, but by transforming them according to ideas. Biologically, humans are omnivores. We can consume a wide variety of plant and animal foods, which gave our ancestors flexibility in changing environments. Fire was a major turning point. Cooking makes many foods safer, softer, and easier to digest, and it may have helped support the energy demands of large brains. Human survival, however, has limits. People can live for weeks without food under some conditions, but usually only a few days without water. Most humans are diurnal, active during the day and asleep at night, with many adults sleeping roughly 7 to 9 hours. These ordinary rhythms connect modern people to ancient biology. Even in cities full of artificial light and digital devices, the body still carries needs shaped long before civilization. Human childhood is unusually long. Babies are born helpless, requiring constant protection, feeding, and teaching. Childbirth itself is risky compared with many other mammals, partly because of the combination of large infant heads and the constraints of a pelvis adapted for upright walking. The long dependency of children shaped human social life. Mothers commonly provide direct care, but fathers, grandparents, siblings, relatives, and wider communities often contribute as well. This cooperative childrearing gives young humans time to absorb language, skills, norms, and identity. A human child is not simply growing a body, they are being inducted into a culture. Long childhood is costly, but it allows an extraordinary amount of learning before adulthood. Humans vary widely in appearance, physiology, health, body size, and lifespan. Genes matter, but so do nutrition, disease exposure, climate, social conditions, and personal experience. Despite visible differences, any two humans are, on average, more than 99% genetically similar. The greatest genetic diversity is found among African populations, reflecting humanity's deep evolutionary roots on that continent. Biological sex is one important dimension of variation. On average, males tend to have greater upper body strength, while females generally have a higher body fat percentage and live longer in most populations. Females also experience menopause, becoming infertile potentially decades before death. But biology does not rigidly determine every social role. Gender expectations have varied across history, and many societies have debated, enforced, challenged, and reimagined them. The story of Homo sapiens begins in Africa. Our ancestors evolved from earlier hominins over millions of years, but Homo sapiens appeared around 300,000 years ago. Later, groups migrated out of Africa and spread into Eurasia and beyond, encountering and gradually replacing or absorbing populations of archaic humans. For most of human history, people lived as hunter-gatherers, moving through landscapes, tracking animals, gathering plants, making tools, and maintaining detailed ecological knowledge. These communities were not primitive in the sense of being simple-minded. They required memory, cooperation, skill, and cultural transmission. The modern human brain existed long before skyscrapers and computers. Civilization did not create human intelligence, it gave that intelligence new environments in which to operate. Agriculture transformed human life. When people began cultivating plants and domesticating animals, especially in regions such as the Fertile Crescent and other cradles of civilization, permanent settlements became possible. Food surpluses allowed populations to grow larger and denser. With density came specialization. Some people could farm, while others became builders, priests, soldiers, merchants, scribes, or rulers. Governance became more complex, and writing became useful for recording laws, taxes, trade, myths, and royal power. Cities rose, empires expanded, and civilizations flourished and collapsed. Agriculture did not simply make life easier, it brought new diseases, inequality, warfare, and labor demands. But it also created the conditions for states, literature, architecture, organized religion, and large-scale history. Today, more than 8 billion humans occupy nearly every part of Earth. Our success is astonishing, but it has consequences. Industrialization, fossil fuels, mass agriculture, mining, urban expansion, and pollution have allowed many people to live longer and produce more than ever before. At the same time, these systems have damaged ecosystems, altered the climate, and contributed to the ongoing mass extinction of other forms of life. Humans are the species that can study a rainforest, destroy it, mourn its loss, and design a plan to protect what remains. That contradiction defines us. We are biological primates with symbolic minds, social instincts, and planet-changing tools. To understand humans is to understand a species powerful enough to reshape Earth, and self-aware enough to ask whether it should. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.